Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Another slower week this week, 2 in a row now. We had a really big week 2 weeks ago, but now things are slower in the secondary market. There are some cards moving up more than $2 though, and we're going to be looking at those in today's video. And if you're curious to find out which cards are moving down at least $2, we did put out a series of shorts throughout the weekend. Just check those out, all that information is there. Quickly before we get started though, just a couple of things. I do want to say thank you to some of our viewers, Alpal8319, Todd Branch, and Thomas Wright. All three of them gave super thanks tips for last week's video. I really appreciate that support and that help for the channel. I can't tell you how much it does help the channel. Thank you all for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. And also remember, if you go to FlipsideGaming.com, you can use the Heroes promo code to save 10% on orders over $10. Currently, you can pre-order Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth products there. They have everything you see on the screen as well as the bundles and gift bundles. But they have a whole lot of other things on their website, March of the Machine, The Aftermath, and much, much more. Remember, if your order's over $100 or it consists only of singles, shipping will be free in the United States. Also, whenever you use the Heroes promo code, it does support the channel, which is always appreciated. So thank you. And without any further ado, let's get into it. We'll begin with the Standard Legal Spotlight. These are the Standard Legal cards moving the most this week. First we have All Will Be One. This goes up $2.22 to $12.10. So this is in Standard Gruul Ramp, but now there's another build floating around using this and a new card for March of the Machine, The Aftermath. Omnixilis Captive Kingpin. The deck tries to get those two cards in play, and then it has different ways to do 1 damage to the opponent in order to start the damage loop. We'll have to see how it does in the meta, but right now there's some buzz around this deck. This card is also getting a lot of play in Commander though. Ever since it came out, players have been using this in the format with cards like Quest for Pure Flame, War Elemental, the Red Terror, but now it is seeing even more Commander play thanks to newer cards. First, it is a great upgrade to the March of the Machine Call for Backup Commander deck, and it's in fresh builds around a couple cards from there. Shalai and Halar, as well as Bright Palm Soul Awakener. It's also in builds there around Omnith Locus of All from March of the Machine's main set, and you guessed it, it's also in Commander builds around Omnixilis Captive Kingpin. Next we have Chandra Hope's Beacon, up 334 to 957. This card was seen in 5 of the top 8 standard decks of Pro Tour March of the Machine, including the winning Rakdos midrange deck. 4 of those decks were actually Rakdos midrange, the other one was Reanimator. Beyond that, this is also found at times in Grixis midrange and Gruul Ramp in the format. Plus, I have seen some other builds around this card in Standard, so we'll have to see where the meta goes in the coming weeks. In Pioneer, it's now found in Is It Control, sometimes now it's in Hidden Strings too, and it's in a number of Commander builds, old and new. It's found in builds around Veyran, Voice of Duality, for example, and those decks got a push by a number of new cards, more on that later in the video. It's also in builds around some other cards from March of the Machine there, Urabrask / The Great Work, Quintorius Loremaster, and Omnith Locus of All. And our big mover this week is right here, Nissa Resurgent Animist. This is the only card in today's video directly from March of the Machine, The Aftermath, but it is up 2336 to 3849 this week. So basically, here's your breakout card from the set. It has already been showing up in modern Omnith Locus of Creation builds. Remember, not only is Omnith an elemental, but those builds also run a number of evoke elementals like Endurance, Fury, and Solitude. Obviously, this plays very well with those cards. And yeah, those new look Omnith builds are performing well right now in MTGO. Beyond that, you know Elf Commander decks are popular, and many are trying this out now as a new commander for those. It's also showing up in the 99 of some builds there, including decks around a few new cards. Jor-El, Voice of Zhalfir, that's another card from March of the Machine, The Aftermath. Thalia and the Gitrog Monster, as well as Omnith Locus of Creation from March of the Machine. By the way, premium versions of this card are hot too. For example, the extended art copy is up $15 this week to $39.99. That retro copy is up $25 to $42.99. Time for that Pioneer Legal Spotlight. Let's look at the Pioneer Legal cards moving up the most this week. Only 2 of them. Here's the first. Magma Opus, up $8.03 though to $12.98. This is found in Pioneer Is It Indomitable Creativity, and that deck has been performing very well, gaining momentum in the format. Most builds run 4 copies of this card in the main, plus Magma Opus also gets some commander play too. Many times it's in Hinata Dawn Crown, for example, and now it is in builds around a March of the Machine card too, Barel and Kari Zev, but Pioneer is the key driver here. And the last card in this section is Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, but this is the one from the list. It goes up 1208 to 5968. However, this copy is hard to find online in high grade, which makes the price inflate at times and become turbulent. Last week it dipped a lot, this week it rebounds. But when it comes to gameplay, yeah, this card does see a lot of play. It's in the very popular Nykthos Ramp Pioneer build, and it's in other builds there, including Monoway Midrange, Elves builds, and Grilled Goblins. And of course, it gets a lot of commander play. It's even been getting more play there recently around a March of the Machine card, Elish Norn / the Argent Etchings. And just like that, we find ourselves in the Modern Legal Spotlight. Let's see what's happening there today. We have Polluted Delta, the original Onslaught copy of 237 to 9241. So this original one did dip last week, rebounds this week. It is a fetch land, so you know it sees a lot of play. It is in many builds in Modern, Legacy, and Vintage. It's also a huge mana base card for Commander. Right now, too, remember, a lot of players are trying to put together new Commander decks around new cards, and this is needed for some of those decks, like the popular Zamon and Dina build, for example. Gemstone Caverns, the Time Spiral remastered copy, goes up 314 to 6394. So we saw all the copies of this card spiking over the last 2 weeks. This is the only copy spiking still this week. The list copy is actually retracting. Again, though, when it comes to gameplay, it continues to see more and more modern play. It is in the popular Crashing Footfalls build, and you see it in Hardened Scales and much more there. In Legacy, it's in Temur Cascade, plus it's in a variety of Commander builds too. And the last card in this section is Sword of Fire and Ice. The original Darksteel copy is up $3.71 to $55.91. Like we talked a couple weeks ago, since the Sword cycle was completed with the Sword of Once and Future, there has been increased interest in the cycle generally. However, this one gets a lot of play. It's in Modern Death and Taxes, Thopter Combo. At times it's in Hammer Time there too. In Legacy, you see it in Mono White Hammer Time, and it's also a solid commander card in a number of builds, including Ragavan Nimble Pilferer, for example. And that brings us to our salute to all Eternal formats, but mostly Commander, our Eternal Spotlight. So obviously, not all the cards in this section are going to be legal in every Eternal format, but none of these cards are legal in Standard, Pioneer, or Modern. Show and Tell, the original Urza Saga copy, goes up $2.10 to $50.62. This is in some Legacy builds that have been pushed recently by Atraxa Grand Unifier. Reanimator, Sneak and Show, Omnitel. It also gets a little Commander play, but truly Legacy is the key driver here this time. Worth noting though too that it does show up in some pre-modern builds, and that format has had a bigger impact on card prices recently. Chroma's Will, up $2.38 to $20.76. This is a very good commander card found in lots of popular decks, but now it is seeing even more play and builds around a number of new cards. It is a good upgrade to the March of the Machine commander deck, Cavalry Charge, and it's in fresh builds around the front-facing commander from there, Sidar Jabari of Zelfir. It's also found in commander builds around cards from the main set, like Thalia and the Gitrog monster, for example. Now it's even getting additional commander play on top of that in a build around a card from March of the Machine The Aftermath, Nahiri Forged in Fury. Assuming it is not reprinted there, this will also be a good upgrade to the Commander Masters Sliver Swarm commander deck, which is coming soon. That deck is headlined by a card that was previewed recently. Let's take a quick look at it. Sliver Grave Mother. Force of Will, the original Alliance's copy, goes up $2.41 this week to $89.84. This was reprinted recently in Dominaria Remastered, and of course it did lose value after that happened. This week though, it does bump up a little bit. It is played in multiple builds in Legacy, Vintage, and Commander. Here is the Commander Legends copy of Commander's Played. It goes up $2.43 this week to $27.66. This was actually reprinted in the Heads I Win, Tails You Lose Secret Lair Commander deck, but this copy's still moving up some, as you can see. It is in many different Commander decks like Ragavan Nimble Pilferer, and this too has been seeing more Commander play thanks to March of the Machine. It's in builds around Yargle and Multani, but it's also worth noting that this really shines in colorless builds like Kozilek the Great Distortion currently. And remember, there is an Eldrazi themed Commander deck coming with Commander Masters. The deck is called Eldrazi Unbound, and here's the front-facing commander from that deck, Zulodok Void Gorger. If Commander's Played is not reprinted there, it will be a very good upgrade. Here's a card I alluded to earlier, Veyran, Voice of Duality. This is up $2.74 this week to $12.99, and this is the regular foil copy from the Commander 2021 Prismari Performance deck. It is a very popular commander, and it's in the 99 of a number of builds in the format too. It's seeing even more play now as a commander due to a number of cards from March of the Machine that are pushing the build. Urbrask / The Great Work, Ren's Resolve, Sword of Once and Future, Barel and Kari Zev, Transcendent Message, Chandra Hope's Beacon, which we saw earlier, and Invasion of Arcavios / Invocation of the Founders. Mox Opal, the original Scars of Mirrodin copy of 322 to 8887. You see that a lot when the market is kind of slow. No matter what's going on, people seem to still be interested in original copies of some of these big cards. When it comes to gameplay, it's in Legacy, Acast, Painter, and more. Vintage, it's in Paradoxical Outcome. And it's another card you see a lot of times in Commander 2. It's in several builds. Currently, many are getting this to upgrade the March of the Machine Commander deck Tinker Time. And it's in fresh builds around Rashmi and Ragavan from there. Our last card today is Mana Echoes from Onslaught. Again, the original one. This goes up $4.28 this week to $29.99. Solid card for tribal commander decks that contain red, like Krenko Mob Boss. And you might have noticed that March of the Machine did have a lot of good cards for that format that were red or red in another color. That's part of the reason why there's more interest in some of these red commander decks in general. Speaking of that, this card has been seeing more play in that format around a card from March of the Machine, Ortheon, Hero of Lava Brink. But this also shows up frequently in Sliver Commander builds. And remember, Commander Masters is bringing us that Sliver Swarm deck we discussed earlier. If this is not reprinted there, it will be a great upgrade. And just like that, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. I told you this would be a shorter one. I do have some more content coming up this week, but I am going to be taking some time off pretty soon. Stay tuned to the channel to find out exactly when. It'll just be a couple weeks. I typically do that in the spring, early summertime, and then again around the holidays. Until next time though, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.